We have a health inspector's report from 1947 for the Tuam home, and it really makes harrowing reading. It describes a lot of the babies were pot-bellied, they were malnourished, they had skin falling off limbs, they were in deplorable. The malnutrition is evident on an inspector's report that was done in Tuam in 1947. This is an actual government report. And I know many more of those can be investigated. This is just one example of the visit of an health inspector to Tuam in 1947. And it shows a variety of causes. It shows concern from the health inspectors that called at the home in Tuam at that time.
Can you read a bit?
I can read some of it, yeah. There was a miserable, emaciated child. And there's more down here. There's pot-bellied, emaciated, epileptic. There's a wasted child. There's no report of the nuns actually maltreating the children. There is just a concern of the condition of the children.
No one in this House could be unmoved by the discovery of nearly 800 babies buried in a mass unmarked grave. In fact, that grave was a septic tank. This is the stuff of war crimes and holocausts. Tonight and tomorrow night's debate are not about party politics. It is not about political point scoring.
That such organised, systematic abuse happened with the active involvement of religious and churches is an utter perversion of anything that anyone might reasonably call Christian. And church leaders and religious orders must now step forward and measure up to their responsibilities, to cooperate, to apologise and to make reparation.
Sinn Féin has tabled a motion of no confidence in your government, and we're calling on all Choctaw to support this. There are some, particularly in Fianna Fáil, who say we shouldn't have tabled this motion, and they claim that it will prevent the McCabe family from getting answers to their very legitimate questions.
The Commission of Investigation into Mother and Baby Homes has informed me of an important development in relation to excavations it carried out in Tuam, County Galway. The Commission's excavations have revealed that human remains are visible in a series of chambers that may have formed part of sewage treatment works at the former Bon Secours Mother and Baby Home. And importantly, they traced the remains specifically to the period of the home's operation between 1925 and 1961.
We are all shocked at the most recent revelations about the discovery of what's described as substantial amounts of human remains found at the site of the Mother and Baby Home in Tuam.
And make no mistake, it is and was an atrocity, a mass grave of 796 tiny bodies discarded like trash.
And I want to argue that that empire was built on the bones of the dead Tuam babies.
The Tuam revelations and what is yet to be discovered could well dwarf all other scandals to date.
And the criticisms of the churches in terms of all of this that happened is absolutely legitimate and needs to be made.
Tonight and tomorrow night's debate are not about party politics.
Well, I do thank Minister Catherine Zappone. A lot of people, they give her an awful time. They say terrible things about her. But as regards Tuam, she has stood by her word. She has come to us. She has come down and met us. She has carried out every promise that she said that she would do. And she has been a huge support, and she's always there for us. So that's I would like to mention that for her.
So you mentioned there that sometimes people have called you a hoax. And
the Commission on Mother and Baby Homes report is due in just a few days. So what are the next steps? Well, I'm joined by Dr. Maeve O'Rourke.
Now, unfortunately, in October 2020, the Irish government announced that when it received the whole Mother and Baby Homes Commission archive, it planned to seal the archive for the next 30 years. This is actually quite a common approach of government departments in Ireland, that they attempt to seal the archives of investigations into widespread and serious church-state abuse.
I think the only way in which this will be resolved is through an order of the superior courts of this country. I can't see any other way, because there is no will, there's no wish, there's no appetite. Church and state in this country are still wedded in a poisonous pact.
Wherever I go, whenever I talk about these issues, people always ask, why has no one sued the nuns? And where were the police? They are absolutely legitimate questions. We have the facts staring us in the face. We have survivors telling us the extreme abuse that they suffered. And
I think the state feels a debt of honour, so I think that's the reluctance. It would be kind of literally eating itself to attack the church, and it's just not going to do it.
Now, if you ask me about Irish justice, I would also say to you, Irish justice, I think that would also be a good idea.
And on paper and in actual reality, what happened amounts to some of the worst human rights violations that are possible. Ultimately, I think that those who were in authority at the time that these institutions were run are concerned about the cost of legal proceedings.
They just want information. Identity is a huge thing with them. To know their identity, to know where their mothers went, to know was she all right, to know how she fared out in life. And that, it's when you think about it, it's so cruel.
It's a basic human right.
It's wrong. It's a basic human right to know your identity. And I do believe...
It was no more nor less than a kidnapping, orchestrated by the Crusade of Rescue, an Irish Catholic organisation which, with the blessing of local authorities, tracked down and brought back fallen women to their native soil, generally acting on a denunciation. This document indicates that Terry's kidnapping resulted from her aunt's betrayal, and she has no doubt her own mother was in on it.
I've never had any evidence, but deep down I've always known it. My mother wanted to save face, and her fear of my father was far outweighed her need or her want or her love for her grandson.
And when you came to look for your mother,
yes,
as you started to do at the age of 15, but it took years and years before you located her, didn't it?
It took 33 years until I was 48 to have a single phone call with her, about 40 minutes long, and there won't be any more, and that's it. When I was 13 days old in Castlepollard, my mother and I were transferred to St Patrick's Mother and Baby Home, the Navan Road, and I was taken out of her arms in the hall by Sister Agnes and sent to the wards. They had notorious huge wards in the place. She was told to go outside and sit on the wall and wait for her father to collect her. We had an office in town. He got a call, told, and I've never seen her since that day, and I never will.
But you had this conversation with her. Why do you say there won't be another one?
Because she made it clear she didn't want to have anything to do with me. And I kind of knew that anyway, because social services had contacted her several times over the years, or at least tried to. She was avoiding them. And she was never in any way, shape or form proactive or open to contact over the years, but I still felt I needed to know some of my natural family, and some of them did want to know me when I contacted them and were very happy to meet me. But she did not want to. She was talked into taking that phone call by her brother.
The majority of children who survived in the Tuam Mother and Baby Home were adopted or fostered out. If you were healthy and pretty, you were advertised for adoption and a family was found for you.
They were brought into the room, a group of children. The prospective foster parents would look at each child they would be looking for a strong lad for the farm maybe, or a strong girl for housework.
Those kids who escaped adoption faced an equally bleak future. Some were fostered out, often into abusive situations. Many others were sent to industrial schools, notoriously brutal places run by religious orders.
The hardest part for me is that I do not know where I belong.
Yeah.
Even at 15...
Maurice O'Connell was incarcerated in an industrial school in Tralee, along with his stepbrother, Kevin.
Nobody in Tralee saw a mixed-race child before. The nuns told the girls to take the dirt off him. And you had 3 or 4 of them scrubbing my brother. He was red raw. We were starved, we were beaten. There was one day a priest came to visit, but he sexually molested me when I was about 7 years of age.
The revelations within the Catholic Church have forced it to repent. 48-year-old Darren McCavin is another survivor of sexual abuse. His abuser, Tony Walsh, is currently in prison for raping more than 200 children in the suburb of Ballyfermot, where Darren grew up in a violent family.
He was also an impersonator of Elvis Presley. So he was in a thing called the All Priest Show, and they went around the country in halls and clubs. They got paid.
And the country's most notorious paedophile priest, Father Brendan Smith. At its centre, a boy who in 1975 reported Smith's abuse to the Cardinal. What age were you when this all started?
Well, when I was an old boy, I was 11 years old.
You were just 11?
Just 11, yeah.
And how long did it carry on for?
Carried on for over 2 years. And
instead of taking action when they knew the abuse was taking place, they could have saved lives upon lives, and the torture for families and children, and just their silence just has ruined more lives that you could think of.
Martin Gallagher is one of them. During his childhood, he was sexually abused by Eugene Green, a priest in County Donegal, situated in North West Ireland.
When we were younger and abused, there was nobody to talk to that we could trust. The priests we couldn't go near, they would laugh at us and call us liars.
The commission was experts outside the church, child protection experts from every area, brought together to advise the Pope, to bring expertise into the church. The Curia, the civil service, the Pope's civil service, they saw us on the commission as people coming in from the outside and interfering. The importance of child protection was ignored, really. It was more politics.
We have the facts staring us in the face. We have survivors telling us the extreme abuse that they suffered.
There was no love, there was no care. What happened in the home? You know, it can happen to you, that you can block things out at such a young age.
I didn't care. So we had a hard time now with them. That's why I accused the church and state what they did now. The state paid them to look after us, what they did.
And even when they demolished the place there, they found a room with all the toys that was in it. And it would be the local people that would have handed in the toys for the Christmas, but we never got them.
I said, when I went to bed, I sleep on that bed for 3 or 4 days. I got no career, no, nothing at all, no career, no school, no teaching, and no toys for Christmas, nothing at all. I came home here.
I remember a child being kicked. And I don't know where, it was a nun.
How they were
was
ignored,
a small nun.
how they were left to their own devices, how they were never stimulated or encouraged. There was no books, no toys, they were just left wandering. And
what would I think of nuns that weren't loving and
when they got rid of 796 babies and put them into non-consecrated grounds and septic tank and walk away, cover it up and walk away, hoping this would go away. How can they sleep in their bed tonight with ease when they have that in their conscience?
But what was very striking is the absence of basic kindness. One hard truth in all of this is that all of society was complicit in it.
Myself and so many others are just devastated that more or less they have found that society, we as a society, were to blame. It looked almost to me that the government and congregations that were more or less looking after each other, keeping back what really happened. The shame is not on those people who were born in the home or on their mothers. The shame is on society, it's on the church, and it's on the state. And people of the home still around the place, they're the survivors. There are quite a huge number still living. And the people who have brothers or sisters buried there, they want them exhumed. Mm-hmm. They want their own little baby back, whether, I don't know how many parts or what way, the condition they'll be in. But
I don't want it moved. I want to leave the dead alone and leave them in peace. Mm-hmm. And not disturb them. It's going to cost nearly 30 million to move them. Why? Why disturb them? Put up a memorial here that'll do it for the generation after generation.
Acknowledgement and an apology from the church and from the state.
I want them to tell the truth, be honest for once in their life. We're neglected, no love showing whatsoever. It wouldn't have been done to animals what we had to suffer. Babies crying through the night. Why? Because they were uncomfortable, they were neglected, starved, and
But I would appreciate and I would accept the apology if they look after the survivors now, mentally and financially.
if we have to bring down the government, we'll bring it down. It's only starting.